Felix has granted the hearing for Paul and notified the Pharisees in Jerusalem. That's what they want to do. And again, very quickly, they're going to commence this hearing. We know that Ananias is the high priest during this time, but he's not really the talker in this section of Scripture. If you see, the guy's name is Tertullius. And we don't know a lot about Tertullius. The commentaries talked about it briefly. Obviously, he's a lawyer in my mind. Opinion. He's basically a high-priced lawyer, high-priced hired gun, if you want to call it that way. Maybe he was selected because he is more familiar with Roman law. Maybe he was a Gentile, and they thought that possibly the fact that he was a Gentile may put him in better standing with the governor when he's given the charges for his case. And but if you read what he says, he had to be a high-priced attorney, because look what he said. I mean, this guy, sugar would not melt in this guy's mouth. I mean, you look and see how he makes his introduction to the governor. I mean, he is pouring it on. Now, what did the Pharisees really think about the Roman government during this time? Was there a great relationship between these two groups? No. I mean, no way. So what he's saying is all flowery, but it's not the truth. This is not truly how the Pharisees feel about the Romans. I hate to say hate, but there was a lot of bad blood. That's a better word. Thank you, Steve. You should be teaching and not me. And again, the Romans were pretty ruthless. I mean, we know how tough they were. They were very, very smart, because again, the Romans would let the different countries, their rulers, take care of a lot of the day-to-day type stuff. It was just serious charges that were, I guess, prison offenses or even, execution had to come through the Roman authorities. So the Jews wanted to use the Romans to get to Paul. And that's where we're at right now.
Just like they did Jesus.
Oh, you're way ahead of me. You're teaching my lesson. Hang on to that thought, because you're right on point there, Paula. Thank you. All right, so what are the charges? Paul's accused of being a plague. He's accused of being an agitator throughout the Roman world. Now, why is that important? That's probably the most serious charge, or the charge that the Romans are going to take the most serious, because if you're the Roman governor, what do you want in your area?
Peace.
You want peace. You don't want anybody above you to have to deal with a problem that you can't deal with. It's kind of like, I've always thought, my philosophy as a worker, I wanted to make sure that there were no problems going to my boss, because I wanted to keep my boss out of trouble. That was in my little old head, that was always my philosophy. If it didn't go to him, I could handle it. It takes pressure off him, makes him look better. Well, and it's the same thing with Felix here. He wants peace. He wants peace. And of course, it's kind of hard dealing with the Jews this time and the Pharisees and all to have that peace, but that's what he wanted. So again, Paul's accused of being a plague, an agitator throughout the Roman world, a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes. Now, who in the world is that?
Christ follower.
There you go, Christ follower. That's right. They couldn't say it. And they were known as the Nazarenes. If you look at world history, they were kind of referred to as the Nazarenes sometime. But to the Jews, I think the most important charge was that Paul was accused of he desecrated the temple. And obviously, that's a very, very important place for them. That's the center of their worship. And that was a big charge for the Jews. All right, let's talk about Judge Felix here. And Pastor gave a really good background about Felix and all, and the message that he gave. What kind of a character is Felix? Is he a good old boy?
No, he said he was cruel.
He was cruel. You talk about cruel, and he was ruthless. Pastor said in his message that a couple things: morally corrupt, and he lacked self-control. Okay? doesn't say a lot of good things.
Not a good leader.
Not a good leader, okay? He kind of ruled by intimidation too. And again, he just wants to keep things quiet. So Paul presents his defense, and obviously he is not telling the Jews present what they want to hear. And it's interesting to read how, after you heard the flowery introduction from Tertullius, how when Paul starts to talk, Paul's not flowery. Paul is all business. What does he say? I know you've been a judge in this nation for many years. I am glad to offer my defense in what concerns me. Okay? So he's not flowery. He's just, as Jack Webb used to say on Dragnet, just the facts, just the facts. All right. So again, Paul's not telling the Jews what they want to hear, and how they're perceiving it is a little different too. One of the points in the lesson that I liked a lot was, and I'm just going to quote this, saying the perceived wrong thing today could get Christians in trouble. And we have to know that. I'm going to read it again. Saying the perceived, quote, wrong thing today could get Christians in trouble. And we have to know that. And we have to be aware of that when we're out there. And in today's culture, I mean, saying the wrong thing could get you fired. Certainly could get you, what's the word I'm looking for? Marooned, kind of, a lot of ostracized is that's the word I was looking for. Thank you. It could get you hurt too. I mean, we got mobs today too. It's kind of, things are out of control right now, and where the police are not always enforcing the law, and because of, again, politics and all too. And our cancel culture world, we got to know that. So we have to understand that and be aware of that, and know that if you're talking with friends or family or coworkers, if you feel led to say it, then you got to say it. But just be careful what you are saying, and knowing that whatever you say could have repercussions. I don't think you're going to be thrown in prison, but you have to know that what you say could get you in trouble. And I'm going to ask a follow-up question a little bit more about that one. Maybe I'll ask the question now. Okay. If we're going to say things that may get us in trouble because we feel led to say those things, and we're going to suffer, how can we prepare for suffering and persecution we might experience for preaching the gospel in certain places to certain people? I'll ask the question again. How can we prepare for suffering and persecution we might experience for preaching the gospel in certain places to certain people?
You can expect it.
You can expect it.
And not get defensive.
I think that's a really good point. That's part of my weakness. Sometimes when you attack me, I get defensive. And instead of thinking clearly,
Yeah.
I get angry, I get defensive, I get angry, and I'm going to pop right back off to you. And that's the worst thing you could do. So, all right, so how do we prepare ourselves to be able to discuss? Yes, ma'am?
Pray for patience.
Pray for patience. That's a biggie. I had that written down too. That's a huge one. Prayer period is a huge one. Yes, ma'am?
I think just reading the scripture, knowing what Paul did, and reading scripture will prepare us, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Who?
I think
Our
our compassion has to show.
compassion has to show. All right, I'm going to make you follow up on that. What does that mean, Suzanne? What is it? Is it that people have to see that we're speaking in love and not?
Yes, you have. We talk about being bold a lot, but I think we have to be warm and compassionate in that boldness, because sometimes boldness can be taken as critical.
Okay.
So I think what we need to be is strong and courageous and warm and compassionate, all wrapped up in one.
I had not thought of that. Great point. Y'all are so much smarter than I am. What else? Yes.
Like when I look at that question, I think if someone attacks me for my beliefs, I always keep in my mind, it's not them. We only have one enemy, and that's Satan. So Satan is working through. They don't even know that they're a vessel for Satan. So why am I getting upset with them? It's Satan, period.
Yeah.
So I try to keep that in my mind so I don't get upset at somebody else.
I agree. It's a biggie.
being a good listener when you're trying to talk to somebody. Try to show the person that you're not just beating them to death with what you wanna say, but you might not agree with what they're telling you, but show them that you are receptive and you wanna listen, because I think that kinda makes someone wanna interact with you more and feel like you're having more of a conversation than just being told something.
I think that's the key to witnessing too, is listening. Sometimes I have a pre-thing in my mind, I'm gonna say this, but everybody's different how they're gonna receive it. So I think that's a great point, that listen and try to point it to their direction where it's gonna mean the most to them and they're gonna get it. It's good. Anything else? I don't wanna cut anything off.
For me, it was when I first got saved, there was a track out, I don't even know if they put it out anymore, but it was a choo-choo train, and of course, the engine was the facts. These are the facts. And then the middle portion was the faith. And then the caboose part was our feelings. We gotta keep that in order, and I think that's what Paul's gonna do, keep the facts straight. This is what happened to me. And then, this is how my faith developed, and this is, you guys might feel bad about me, but, so you gotta keep it in that order. You can't have one, the facts gotta be first, then the faith, then the feelings.
Agree. That's good. Anybody? I don't want to cut anybody off now. And understand there may be a cost associated with that. I said it before. I mean, you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, it could come back on you.